This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
Next on the 5 o'clock report.
We do not know the cause.
Government is too large, it does too many things, and it does almost nothing well.
The network will be ending The Late Show.
TJ Watt, as good as anybody in the game.
Now, let's go to the newsroom.
The dangerous world of law enforcement. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Mark Webster. A painful reminder that those sworn to protect and to serve face many hazards on a daily basis. In Los Angeles this morning, 3 sheriff's deputies died in what appears to have been an accidental bomb blast. Sheriff Robert Luna.
At this time, we do not know the cause of the explosion. However, the specific area has been closed off.
L.A. reporter Rick Montana is with more on the victims.
They are highly elite, trained crews that will go out and do this, and so there is training that happens at this facility as well. You've got to wonder what exactly went wrong to cause something on this scale, this tragic, for the LA County Sheriff's Department.
The blast at that bomb squad facility happened around 10:30 this morning, our time. The rescission decision is complete.
On this vote, the yeas are 216. The nays are 213.
After that vote, President Trump today putting his pen to that $9 billion plus rescissions bill, which clawed back a lot of federal funding. Mostly it covers foreign aid money, but also takes away over $1 billion in funding earmarked for public broadcasting. House Speaker Mike Johnson says it's a step in reining in federal government.
We're going to downsize the scope of government. Government is too large, it does too many things, and it does almost nothing well.
Every House Democrat opposed the cuts, including New York's Hakeem Jeffries.
To make sure that we're investing in development and diplomacy and democracy all across the world.
Also today, Trump signed a major bill dealing with cryptocurrency, which, unlike the rescissions package, had some bipartisan support.
His first of several bills to come that will help make America an incredible leader globally in digital assets.
Here's more from Fox's Peter Ducey.
More than 100 Democrats, including the Democratic leader in the House, Hakeem Jeffries, voted to pass the Genius Act last night. That's the one that establishes federal guardrails for U.S. dollar-pegged stable coins. There was also some Democratic support for the Clarity Act. That's the one that's going to regulate crypto in the U.S.
102 House Democrats sided with Republicans in passing the so-called Genius Act. On the downside for Team Trump, a new development in the never-ending saga of the Jeffrey Epstein case. A new report out today linking Trump to Epstein, albeit more than 2 decades ago.
A Wall Street Journal report alleges he wrote Epstein a birthday note in 2003, included in a collection of letters, with a hand-drawn sketch appearing to be the outline of a naked woman and a message that said, "Happy birthday, may every day be another wonderful secret."
CBS's Scott MacFarlane also today an edict from Trump to the DOJ to release more information to the public about the case.
Attorney General Pam Bondi says the Justice Department is ready to ask a federal court to unseal grand jury transcripts in the Jeffrey Epstein case. President Trump called for the release, citing a, quote, ridiculous amount of publicity given to Epstein.
That's Fox's Tanya J. Powers. A third takes the fifth. An aide to former President Joe Biden, the third former staffer to refuse to testify before the House Oversight Committee. Annie Tomasini, who served as Deputy Director of Oval Office Operations, the latest aide to reject the committee's request for questioning on Biden's mental fitness for office. Some economic news next. You might have noticed beef prices seem to be climbing up a bit. This Texas cattle rancher tells CBS there's good reason for that.
We've had a lot of drought the past couple of years, and so it's been harder and harder to keep enough grass to feed the cows.
Economists say tariffs and worries over a flesh-eating pest that's currently hitting cattle herds in Mexico could raise beef prices even further here. A man seriously injured after his metal chain sucked him into an MRI machine. This happened in New York. It was at the NASA Open MRI on Long Island Wednesday. Apparently, the 61-year-old man entered an MRI room without permission in the middle of a scan.
It would act like a torpedo trying to get into the middle of the center of the magnet.
That's Charles Winterfeld. He's the MRI director at nearby North Shore Health. Well, pretty soon it'll be the Late Show.
The network will be ending The Late Show in May. And
CBS pulling the plug on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. The network says his final show will be in May. Colbert, who's hosted that show since 2015, says he just learned the news Wednesday night. The network says it's all dollars, a purely financial decision, not related to the show's performance, content, or other matters happening at Paramount. While Colbert fades to black, the Pittsburgh Steelers, gold and black, are keeping their wattage on full power.
Robinson, who gets blown up by T.J. Watt, as good as anybody in the game.
He sure is. The defensive star and fan favorite in Iron City has signed a 3-year, $123 million extension to stay put. Last season was his 7th straight as a Pro Bowler. Still to come here on the 5 o'clock report. We'll have a recap of our top area stories. We'll hear about a lesser-known side of actor Jimmy Stewart and a teen who stood tall when it counted.
I'm Kevin Williams, and here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. It'll be a beautiful night tonight, generally clear. A few patchy clouds in parts of central and eastern Pennsylvania. A little fog in a few valleys late. Temperatures dipping into the 50s for many. Tomorrow, sunshine for most. A few afternoon clouds. Chance of an afternoon shower or thunderstorm in Pennsylvania south of I-80. High temperatures, mid-70s to mid-80s. Plenty of clouds and more humid Saturday night and Sunday with a few showers and a thunder shower. High temperatures Sunday in the 70s to near 80.
Very good, Kevin. Thank you much. Now checking the stories making news where you live across New York and Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania Republican Senator Dave McCormick teaming up with Democrat Catherine Cortez Masto of Nevada, backing legislation that's pushing for more transparency when it comes to China's economic policies.
China is not a competitor. China is an adversary. They're stealing our intellectual property. They're subsidizing their exports. We don't have fair trade with China, and that hurts American workers. It hurts American families. And it's really devastating to our manufacturing base, and it's making us more dependent on China, which is a huge national security problem.
The China Exchange Rate Transparency Act, or CERT Act, directs the U.S. head of the International Monetary Fund to advocate for stricter oversight and transparency over how China handles its currency. A recent U.S. Treasury report accused Beijing of currency manipulation. A major fire overnight at the main intersection in the Otsego County village of Milford, New York. That's a little bit northeast of Oneonta. County emergency officials say 4 commercial and residential buildings at the Four Corners were hit by the fire. One trapped victim who was rescued, being treated at Bassett Medical Center in nearby Cooperstown. Several area fire companies responded to the scene when that first alarm rang out around 2 this morning. Experts are sounding an alarm about insect-borne illness. Cases of West Nile virus and Triple E popping up in central New York. Symptoms include
fever, body aches, joint aches, muscle aches, sometimes nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, headaches, confusion.
Dr. Jim Alexander, medical director of the Onondaga County Health Department. This week, the county reported its first human case of West Nile virus in more than 5 years. Well, on a happier note, the skies over Wellsville bursting in color. This year marks the 50th anniversary of the Great Wellsville Balloon Rally. More than 30 hot air balloons taking flight from Island Park. The free festival draws thousands of visitors every year to Allegheny County, New York. It ends with a sunrise send-off on Sunday. Up next, highlights from today's Staycation feature. I had the pleasure of speaking with Janie McGurkin, who runs the Jimmy Stewart Museum in the famed actor's hometown of Indiana, Pennsylvania. While most understandably know him best for his prolific acting career, It's a Wonderful Life, and so forth, there was a lot more to Jimmy Stewart that speaks of the small-town values he was raised on, especially his distinguished military career as a pilot. He took his lifelong love of aviation and made a determined effort to serve in the U.S. Army Air Corps in World War II, even though they almost didn't want him.
And he didn't even have to be. He was drafted, and he got out of the draft because he was too skinny, and he went back and enlisted. He had a long line of people in his background, in his family, that all served back to the Revolutionary War. His father served in the Spanish-American War in World War I, and people between those two. So there was a long line of history of Stewart's fighting in the war. And at this point, Jimmy Stewart was a good pilot. He had taken flying lessons, and he continued to do so in Hollywood. The only movie poster that is not in the Hollywood Gallery, there's one in the boyhood bedroom, and it's The Spirit of St. Louis. When he was a boy, he was bedridden with scarlet fever, and that's when he was flying across the Atlantic, and Jimmy Stewart followed his flight. He was fascinated with Lindbergh, and he made a little diorama moving this little plane across the Atlantic Ocean. So we have stories about that in the boyhood bedroom because it happened when he was a intelligent boy.
Eventually plays that role on the screen.
He did. He really had to mark it hard because people thought he was a little too old for that role, but he really wanted to play that. He was his aviation hero. Right now, we have an exhibit on his P-51 Mustang, which we just had in for our 30th anniversary. And this plane, it's Jimmy Stewart's plane, has a fascinating history. He won the Bendix Trophy, which was a race across America, but he also sold it to Jackie Cochran, who was the first female pilot to break the sound barrier, and she's got a cool history of this plane. And then this plane also was the one that flew the coronation tapes of Queen Elizabeth II across the Atlantic so we in America could see the footage the same day it happened. So he was very skilled at that, and he knew he wanted to do his part. He wanted to fight for his country. And so because he was turned down for being too skinny during the draft, he went and ate a bunch of food and then came back with a doctor's note that just said, this is just the way this gentleman is built, and got in. He was almost 2 years away from being too old to serve. And they kept him stateside for a long time because he had just won the Oscar for Philadelphia Story, and they didn't want anybody like Germany to kill him because that would have been a big kudo for them, and he was very famous at the time. So they kept him stateside, but he kept saying, I want to fight, I want to do my share. And eventually they needed him, and he was also very skilled. He was training pilots stateside. And then he went over stationed on England, and he really flew about 20 combat missions, really dangerous ones over Germany, Nazi Germany.
Yeah, not a military career for show.
Oh, no, he really did it. And he's got the medals to prove. He was one of the most highly decorated Hollywood stars that served. We have 4 uniforms. We have most of his medals, a lot of great stories and photos about his time in the service. And he really felt like it was one of the most important things he did. And if he came back and his acting career wasn't there anymore, he would have been okay with that.
Absolutely. A lot of people might not know this aspect of his life. There's a tribute there in that gallery to Stewart's stepson, who died in Vietnam.
Yeah. So his stepson was serving in Vietnam. Jimmy Stewart and his wife Gloria had just visited there a week before to boost troop morale, and then he got killed in action, which is really sad. That was a tough one on him.
Indeed. That's Jenny McGurkin, Executive Director of the Jimmy Stewart Museum in Indiana, Pennsylvania, talking about the famous actor's service to America as a pilot in World War II. You can hear our entire staycation feature, along with all of Family Life's original news features, at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and at FamilyLife.org. This is the 5 o'clock report on Family Life.
There are 2 kinds of margin when it comes to your money. One helpful, the other harmful. Hi, I'm Rob West with a Faith and Finance Minute. The good kind of margin is in your budget. It's money left over after paying your bills. You need it so you can save for emergencies and invest for the future. The bad kind? It's called margin investing. That's when you borrow money from a brokerage to buy more investments than you can afford. It's not wise, it's risky speculation. Thankfully, margin investing isn't allowed in retirement accounts like IRAs or 401ks, but it is allowed in regular brokerage accounts, and I can't stress this enough. Avoid it. Proverbs 21:5 says, steady plotting brings prosperity, but hasty speculation brings poverty. Trust God's wisdom, not quick gains. Connect with a certified Kingdom advisor who's been trained to deliver financial advice that aligns with your Christian values by visiting our website, faithfi.com.
Still to come here on the 5 o'clock report, a young man with bravery and wisdom well beyond his 13 years. His inspiring story coming up.
I'm Kevin Williams, and here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. After a delightful day today, we've got a beautiful night tonight and a nice start to the day tomorrow. As the weekend wears on, however, the air will become humidified, destabilized. The approach of a cold front will generate a few scattered showers and rumbles come Saturday night and Sunday. In the meantime, it'll be a beautiful night tonight, generally clear. A few patchy clouds in parts of central and eastern Pennsylvania, a little fog in a few valleys late. Temperatures dipping into the 50s for many. Tomorrow, sunshine for most, a few afternoon clouds. There'll be the chance of an afternoon shower or thunderstorm in Pennsylvania south of I-80. High temperatures, mid-70s to mid-80s. Plenty of clouds and more humid Saturday night and Sunday with a few showers and a thunder shower. High temperatures Sunday in the 70s to near 80.
All right, thank you very much, Kevin Williams. And finally at 5, the amazing story of 13-year-old Gage Bryant. He recently saved the life of an 11-year-old boy who nearly drowned in a lake in Everett, Washington. Gage was there with his aunt when a woman said that a child had gone into the water and had failed to come back up. Gage didn't hesitate.
I didn't have time to process being scared, because if I was scared, then I would have got out of the water, so I just kept going, and I couldn't see anything. It was murky, so I went down and back and forth a couple times, and I looked there immediately, and all I see is him cradled, and I started running out of air myself, but I was not going to let him go, so I threw him over me.
And he got the job done, and the young man survived. His heroics included this quick prayer.
I started praying myself. I was like, please, God, please save this young man's life. I just want him to have a life. I want him to live long, and I want him to have a healthy life and have a wife and children.
So he's being hailed as a hero, but, says Gage,
I wouldn't say so. I say the people who did CPR and were able to bring him back are the real heroes. I was just a sidekick.
I don't know, 13-year-old Gage Bryant sounds like much more than just a sidekick. That's the world we live in for Friday, July 18th, 2025. Thank you again for joining us. Have a blessed weekend. I'm Mark Webster, Family Life News.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.